Is there scientific evidence for the existence of God? The quick and simple answer is the most evidence science points to is God. You might ask, where? Show me God or let me hear God. Then we say, you do not ask whether we see or hear Allah as we see or hear tangible things. And if this was your question, we would say to you, of course not. But you asked, does science indicate the existence of God? Knowledge is composed of sense and reason. For man is not a mute machine or a camera to capture images and then look at its screen. Do we see God in it? Humans analyze sensory inputs with their minds and come to conclusions. This process begins in the early moments of their childhood and matures as they grow older. Even animals infer from the senses and associate the effect with the causes. They know from the smell of food that there is food nearby and start searching for it. And some track scents, like dogs, searching for whom the scent belongs. If you see a bitten apple with human teeth marks, you'll know someone bit it. That's knowledge, even though you didn't see the person. If you hear a song in a beautiful voice, you know someone is singing it. This is knowledge, even though you did not see who sang it. But these are self-evident truths, and because they are so obvious, people do not call them science. Because the word science, it leads to reflection and analysis, which is not needed in such matters. Everything happens for a reason. This is a natural and obvious rational principle, needing no education or intelligence. We operate under the law of causality in all our actions. We eat because food is a means of filling hunger. And we drink because water is a reason to quench thirst. And we resort to sleep for comfort and work to earn a living. With this principle of causality, you know that there is a creator who manages you and the universe around you, or at least that there is. It is clear in life. He perfected his details, set his laws, and his power is evident in yourself and in the movements of beings around you. So the question is there any evidence for the existence of God? Not accurate, because there is nothing that doesn't point to the existence of God. If you entered a house that wasn't yours, sat on a couch, and ate cooked food from the table in front of you. So, what will you say at that moment if you are punished? A question. Is there any evidence that this house has a builder, this food has a cook, or this sofa has a maker? Is there any evidence that any of these things happen by an external cause? Wouldn't your question then be provocative? God Almighty said, say, observe what is in the heavens and the earth. But neither signs nor warnings benefit those who do not believe. What is in the heavens and the earth? Everything in them indicates God and His attributes. But those who have an inherent problem with believing in the unseen won't benefit from the evidence, essentially. Whatever it may be, Cleardel, and Allah the Exalted said, have they not looked at the dominion of the heavens and the earth and all things that Allah has created? Are they in the kingdom of the heavens and the earth? And it was not said to. So the letter 2 includes contemplation and reflection in details. What guides you more and more to the Creator is everything that God has created. Meaning, everything that God has created. His majesty guides to Him. What He created is a testament to His glory. Oh, how strange it is to disobey God or to deny His existence. In every movement and every stillness, there is a sign of God. In everything, there is a sign that He is the one. The proper question isn't if there is evidence of a creator, but rather, is there anything that can detach itself from being evidence of the creator's existence and the essence? No. And Ibn Taymiyyah was truthful when he said, the more people are in need of something, the more their Lord is. And the Lord is generous with it. Yes, people's need to know their Lord is the greatest need. So you see that God provides them with evidence of His existence. And the ways to know its attributes rather, and from the names of Allah, the benefactor. The obvious. Ibn al-Jawzi said in Zad al-Masir, in interpreting the verse, He is the first and the last, the obvious and the inner. The obvious said, Vikindri da. With his compelling arguments, bright proofs, and clear evidences of His oneness, indeed, Allah is evident. It's comprehensible through logic and evidence, yet at the same time hidden, because it is not seen like everything else observable in the world. This is the guide with precision, simplicity, clarity, and worship. All beings in existence indicate the existence of God. Everything you see is not random beings, but randomly built structures. Its movements indicate that it is created, I mean made with intention and power, nothing can create itself. It's impossible for it to create itself when it was nothing before it came to be. So, there must be a creator for it, one who acts with will, power, knowledge, wisdom, grandeur, and all that his creations indicate. In this episode, I could have explained to you the argument against infinite regress. And existence that is possible must necessitate an existence that is necessary. And events must have an origin. But I don't know. I didn't do it because none of these are religious. Part of the fundamental proof, rebutting objections and discussing doubts, are not part of the main argument. These are merely responses to those who have a flaw that prevents them from accepting this very clear evidence. So, when I explain to you in the upcoming episodes about sequence, its absence, causality, and eternity, you might say, I'm not getting it. There's nothing in it. Nothing at all. Why is it a problem? Who said you need to understand the response to every doubt to believe in it? You can believe in the existence of God with a rational, innate faith based on solid scientific principles, without understanding the doubts and the responses to them. As they say, the hardest task is explaining it. And the obvious things, because clarifying obvious matters is only with someone who disputes fundamentals. Hence, there is no common ground for discussion and proof with them. If a person saw the sun at noon and said, I am not convinced that there is a sun, why? Maybe it's a burning artificial sphere set before us. We asked him, but how is the ball hanging in the air? It must be tied to a string, but we don't see it. He said, maybe it's a transparent string. We asked him, what is this rope tied to? And who moves it? And what rope could withstand this heat without breaking? So he said, there might be a giant magnet in the ball charged with the same charge as a piece of metal concealed in the earth, under it, repelling it, so it stayed stuck in the air. Then we calculated with him the required mass for this magnet and the gravitational force using mathematical calculations, and how it surpasses magnetic repulsion. Rush me to the end. The listener to our conversation might say, wow, all this just proves the sun is rising? I thought the matter was clearer than that. No, this is not proof that the sun is rising. It's merely responses to someone who denies clear and obvious things. You don't need to understand it to be convinced that the sun rises with scientific, rational, and correct certainty. The truth is, the problem is not whether it exists, but the issue is in the details. His denials and doubts, no matter how many, do not negate the obvious fact that the sun exists in clear reality, as it is said. It does not make sense in the mind at all. If the day needs guidance, yes, we will address the doubts raised about the existence of God in upcoming episodes. But everything we say is not part of the proof. Rather, it is a response to the objections raised against the proof. Confusing the two is a mistake. Some people might have a natural belief, but when they hear these discussions countering doubts, they feel that the truth about God's existence is unclear. Hidden, it needs intelligence, philosophy, and complexity, because everything he heard is not part of his existence. These are responses to doubts, and the complexity lies not in the truth of God's existence, but in understanding it, to complicate the task of conversing with someone who questions the obvious. Therefore, it is essential and important to distinguish between the evidence for the existence of God and the responses to those who deny this obvious fact. Then there is the frequent repetition of doubts raised against the youth. Something that does not necessarily mean, but if God exists, the frequent repetition of doubts, it expresses the state of the deniers wrestling with this truth that attacks and imposes itself on them. They defend it with all kinds of doubts to calm your mind from their troubled souls. Have they not looked at the kingdom of the heavens and the earth and all that God has created? Perhaps their time is near. In which statement after this will they believe?